All right, shalom, shalom, giving all praises, honor, and glory to our power Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushua, Bahashem Rachad Kodash, double honors to the apostles, the bishops, and the elders of the great millstone. Peace and blessings to the hopeful elect of the tabernacles of David, scattered throughout the four corners of the earth, wherever you may be, to our say shalom, Yahshua, shalom. All right, I want to get into this video. I haven't watched it all yet. I thought it was very interesting here. Because this was my first time seeing it. I don't know how new or old it is or isn't. I perceive it to be on the newer side of things, but it was basically my first time hearing about it. So this executive order 1-4 is something I got. As a matter of fact, I might want to just read some of this first, and we'll play the video because I have it right here. There it is, right there. So, yep, President Donald J. Trump issued Executive Order 14164 titled Restoring the Death Penalty and Protecting Public Safety. And the reason why, this kind of, piqued my interest is because we just talked about, which he does mention somewhere. Like I said, I didn't watch all of it. I only got to a certain point. But he mentions that that train situation in Carolina. And you had another one that just recently happened. Another situation that just happened in the Carolinas. Now, like I said before, those are just minor, isolated events, whether they were staged or, really, happened. Yeah, they were still, people, it still really happened, and people still, lost their life, supposedly, right? And so, when you look at what these people are doing, okay, there's one particular scripture that came to mind. As a matter of fact, I'll grab it now because it was just one. Now, if we get anything else, the scriptures will pop it up. But I want to get just this one scripture that came to mind, given this pretty much this general topic here. So if we go to Revelation 20:4, it says, "And I saw thrones, and they that sat upon them, and judgment was given unto them. And I saw the souls of them that were beheaded for the witness of Yahushua." Because it's come to a point where, because the lady, I think the lady mentions it, where they're trying to seek this for all the states, man. Okay, death penalty. Not saying right straightforward now, but eventually they're going to try to seek this, for all the states, but it's starting in D.C. Okay. So yeah, and which we already know that America has FEMA camps and they have guillotines, but you have the American people who are not aware of these things because they think they're in the land of the free and home of the brave, and you're not. You're in the land where your government lies to you and that you don't have rights, but you think you have rights. Okay. So it says, "And they were beheaded for the witness of Yahushua and for the word of the Most High, which had not worshipped the beast, neither his image, neither had received his mark upon their foreheads or in their hands, and they lived and reigned with the Mashiach 1,000 years." It's talking about the 144,000 men who are going to be crowned as kings. But I always go here because it mentions the beheading. Okay, so we drop that for a second and go back over here. It says, "Restoring the death penalty and protecting public safety on January 20, 2025, which aimed to restore and enforce the federal death penalty. This order was among several executive actions taken on his first day back in office in 2025. So that's why I said, which I always talk about, YouTube. You got to watch YouTube because there'll be things that are new and there are data that's old, but there'll be things that are old that are data that's new. And sometimes things don't pop up right away. And then, given in your state that you live in, some news hits faster in other states. And, so like, I don't know how old or how new this is, but like I said, this is my first time even hearing him say this. And the little bit that I listened to, okay, it was enough that I said, let me just give a few words on it. So the executive order directs the Attorney General to pursue the death penalty for all crimes deemed severe enough to warrant it. See? And they're basically, about to usher in their draconian measures, right? Draconian laws. Specifically, it mandates seeking the death penalty for federal capital crimes involving, check this out, we'll light it up, murder of a law enforcement officer. Because we have, like they play with the words, right? The reason why, because you can't just send troops anywhere. Okay, the posse comitatus, all right? But he's saying that, hey, people are protesting, they're uprising, that's insurrection. And so insurrection gives me the ability to actually send troops. So he's using that as a backdrop, right, to basically kind of skirt the law and get around the law to still send troops without there being any backlash. Because he's saying, hey, uprising, hey, insurrection, see? So he's able to send troops without having any backlash because he's crying out insurrection. So it says, or a capital crime committed by, look, this is the one that stood out the most. A capital crime committed by an alien illegally present in the United States. Who do you think that is, man? That's Jake, specifically the Northern Kingdom, man. Which you already got ICE persecuting the Northern Kingdom. But that's definitely Israelites, man. Okay, when he says that, you see? Because he ain't picking up nobody else, man. The ICE is only picking up them Northern Kingdom Israelites. And he's about to come after you Southern Kingdom Israelites next. You so-called Negroes, West Indians, and Haitians. Because he's already bullying, okay, these Mexicans, Puerto Ricans, and people of that now, the so-called Spanish-speaking tribes. See? It says a capital crime committed by an alien illegally present in the United States. Death penalty. Okay? And what I say before? They're always using the what? Crime. Just throwing crime everywhere because it gives them a real target that the people will agree with. Like, yeah, crime. Okay, yeah, crime. Yeah, I can see that. See? But this is the crafty devil, man. It says the order also encourages state attorneys general and district attorneys to pursue state capital charges for such crimes. Furthermore, it instructs the attorney general to ensure states have a sufficient supply of drugs for lethal injections and to seek the overruling of Supreme Court precedents that limited capital punishment authority. Building on this initial order, President Trump also signed a presidential memorandum on September 25th, 2025, specifically directing the Attorney General and the U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, all right, to fully enforce federal capital punishment laws in Washington, D.C. This memorandum aimed to deter and punish heinous crimes in the nation's capital, citing a high homicide rate in D.C. in 2024. The order directs federal prosecutors to seek the death penalty in all appropriate cases in D.C. and to pursue federal jurisdiction to the maximum extent practicable for death penalty eligible crimes. All right, and that's why he mentions Irina, or whatever this Ukrainian chick's name is. These actions follow President Biden's administration, which had issued a moratorium on federal executions and commuted the sentences of 37 federal death row inmates in December 20. But if you were going by the law, there's certain things because having a person in jail for life, prison for life, whatever. But there's laws that given a crime, you may have just been put there, just sent back to the spiritual realm instead of plaguing a person's mind and keeping them caged up, where they become a worse individual or a victim of a worse individual. Okay. Because they have no hopes of getting out. The Trump administration's executive order also mandates evaluating the confinement conditions of these commuted inmates and exploring potential state capital charges against them. Okay, so I'll just leave that. Maybe want to ask another question. So let's get into this video here. So let's play this.
One of the most powerful deterrents we have to violent crime is the death penalty. As you said, your administration has taken bold, decisive steps to ensure that Washington, D.C. is once again a safe and secure city for its residents and all who visit. This is a presidential memorandum that directs your Attorney General and your U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, Judge Jeanine Pirro, to fully implement the death penalty here in Washington, D.C., where the evidence and facts of a case indicate that the death penalty should be used.
Okay? Everybody understands death penalty in Washington. You kill somebody, or if you kill a police officer, law enforcement officer, death penalty. And hopefully there won't be that. So again, it's way down. I mean, we have had week after week after week where we haven't had a murder. I said that the other day in front of the president of Poland. The press was here, and I said, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to announce that Washington, D.C. has not had a death in 4 weeks, a murder. And he looked at me and goes, is that good or bad? He said, what kind of a place is this? But it's true for years. I mean, every week, essentially, somebody got killed or more than one. And this is a very safe city right now. We don't play games. And, it's interesting. We took these career criminals. They call them careers. They left the word criminal out. But we took the careers out of here. And they're now right back to their homes. Or they're in jail, or they're in a jail in another country. And hopefully they're not coming.
Who you think he's talking about? He's talking about the Israelites that they detained and some they deported. Okay, some people not even been heard about. Okay.
Back, and we have to maintain it. You can't just leave, and we have to maintain it. We've gotten along fairly well with the mayor. that hates that the city's becoming safe. I mean, they're actually criticizing her because the city's becoming safe. But this
Cities are becoming safe, but nobody's talking about whenever the Edomites do these these pop up, these Jack in the Box shootings, man. Those are Edomites, okay? Those are Edomites. Yeah, you had that one Jake. I think it was like an ex-cop. He went on that little shooting spree somewhere up north. That was a while back, some years back. Okay, all right, DC sniper, all this kind of stuff like that. But majority of times you hear about stuff like this happening, like the one that recent, the school or church or something like that. You set it on fire, Edomite. Okay, all these different school pumes, Edomites. The recent one that happened here in North Carolina, Edomite. And I put him on the screen. I did a little small lesson about him. His face on the screen, okay? A purple-hearted ex-Marine. Oh, I got PTSD. Edomite, man, okay? But the problem is Jake, right?
is becoming a...
Let the truck pass. Look nice, but it's loud as hell.
This is right now a very, very safe city. This went from the most unsafe city in the country to the safest city in the country. There's no city any safer. That's a pretty big achievement. And we really did it in 12 days. But if you add an extra week to it, that'd be nice. And I mean, you can go out to dinner. Restaurants are booming. The restaurants were dead. They were dead. Even if you got to the restaurant, then somebody would come in and hold you up. They'd hold up the whole restaurant. They go to Uber. Young ladies in the White House, they called Uber for protection. They'd run to the car because they were petrified to be from the entrance of their building to the car. Now they feel safe. They're in the car, and then the car gets hijacked while they're in the back of the car.
And he's probably lying. I've never heard about that, but you never know. Because, this dude be talking a lot, man. And that's why people be fact-checking what he be saying. Yeah, I mean, come on, man.
This is what we were living in. We were living in hell. People that work in the White House, every time they see me, young women in particular, say, "Thank you, sir." And I don't even ask them about what. I know exactly. I made their lives. Now they're living in a beautiful, glamorous place called Washington, D.C. with no crime, and that's the way it should be. Okay? This is the death penalty for somebody that kills people in Washington, D.C. I think it's capital. It's a very interesting capital punishment, capital city.
Like that's
right?
But notice now, he said he kind of pinpointed crimes to Israelites, though. So who are they really going to aim to delete more than anybody? Israelites. See? Just depopularize Israel.
Capital. But this is our capital city. We can't allow that to happen. People come in from Iowa to look at the Lincoln Memorial and they end up getting killed. It doesn't happen anymore. It's not going to happen. And if it does happen, it's the death penalty. People come in from Iowa to look at the Lincoln Memorial and they end up getting killed.
See? People coming in for tourism, basically. And they end up getting killed just by looking at the Lincoln Memorial. That's why I keep mentioning how he just, crime is his backdrop. Their backdrop. Crime is their backdrop because it gets the job done. Oh, we're cracking down on crime.
It doesn't happen anymore. It's not going to happen. And if it does happen, it's the death penalty for the person that did it. And this goes into effect.
Yes, sir.
Right? Pam, is that right? Could you speak a little bit about that?
Yes, sir. Not only are we seeking it in Washington, D.C., but all over the country again. And as you saw
There you go. You heard it.
recently, we are...
Effect.
Yes, sir.
Right? Pam, is that right?
Yes,
Could you speak a little bit about that?
Yes, sir. Not only are we seeking it in Washington, D.C., but all over the country again. And as you saw very recently, we are now moving the inmates who were on death row, who Joe Biden or the auto pen commuted their sentences off of death row. We're moving them to supermax facilities. Moving
You go
the
back.
Is that right? Could you speak a little bit about that?
Yes, sir. Not only are we seeking it in Washington, D.C., but all over the country again. And as you saw very recently, we are now moving the inmates who were on death row, who Joe Biden or the auto pen commuted their sentences off of death row. We're moving them to supermax facilities where they will be treated like they're on death row for the rest of their lives, President.
See that? Here? Just harsh punishment. Okay? Just put them out of their misery, all right? According to the law, okay? But, just speaking in real time, though, harsh law, okay, harsh punishment.
Trump.
Okay, that's a big statement. Thank you very much. Okay. I see some of you shaking your heads very positively. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, fellas.
You said on the campaign trail that
It said it.
the death penalty if anybody illegal killed a U.S. citizen or a police officer. So this just reinforces your campaign process.
And
Yeah, because when you look at some of these protests, some of these people have been kind of fighting back against ICE. Now it says officers, but I mean ICE can be seen as officers. That they're legally bound to do a certain job. But you have some people in certain places that are fighting back. Okay, I think you have a couple situations about deletions, at least one I believe. But anyways, you get the point though. Okay, all you need is one situation to bring another one, or to bring something like this, a law into effect, an executive order, whatever the case may be. All you need is one incident.
most people really like it. And Washington, again, is going to serve as a beacon because you have to do it. These are bad people. When you look at the guy that killed the young lady in the train in North Carolina, that he'll be in trial for years. He'll get a good lawyer somewhere along the line. Somebody will come along, and what he did to that young lady, and she went into that train scared. When she went in, the way she sat down, she was scared to just be there. She just wanted to not pay any attention to anybody.
So from Northern Kingdom now to this guy who obviously was supposedly a Southern Kingdom. Boy, this is all Israelites, man. Most of what he's talking about is centered around Israel, man. See? Or the Israelites. Well, Israel, yeah, it's the same difference.
Just not be noticed. And she had her throat slit. We don't want that in this country anymore. We're not going to have it in this country anymore. Thank you very much. Next.
Lastly, sir, this is a presidential memorandum on countering domestic terrorism and organized political violence. In recent weeks, months, and years, we've seen a tremendous upsurge in some highly visible, but also other acts of domestic terrorism and organized political violence being perpetrated by radical, politically motivated groups all over the country. What this presidential memorandum will do is set off an administration-wide response to that, ranging from the Joint Terrorism Task Forces to other components of the Department of Justice, to the Department of Homeland Security, and the Department of Treasury. We're looking at interdicting these groups, preventing them from performing acts of violence, and also looking at sources of organization and funding and support that prop.
And who do you think the main ones will be targeting that? That's the ministry. Okay. That's why you have camps that have been constantly rebuked about going out there, being all militant, marching around, antagonizing people. You got sticks and staves out there, because ultimately they're gonna put us all in the same box anyways. Okay, but they're playing a part in getting the ministry playing, because that definitely can be directed towards the ministry, man. Okay, just call them radicalist or however you call it, and errorist and whatever else. Oh, let's see if they got some kind of funding or backing, or who's linked to that, this, that, the third thing. You know how they like to show you in the movies, the bulletin board. They probably don't do that. But, the bulletin board with one picture at the top, and then all these different lines and, thumbtacks linking to this person, that person. But you get the point, man. Because I didn't listen to all this, man.
Come up and allow them to do the acts that they have been doing.
We're looking at the funders of a lot of these groups, and when you see the signs, and they're all beautiful signs made professionally. These aren't your protesters that make the sign in their basement late in the evening because they really believe it. These are anarchists.
Hey, hold on. You hear what he said? To make the signs, they're all beautiful. Now, of course, you can equate that to regular people that protest. They got certain things written on their signs, but also, who goes out there with signs, man? The stick. Who goes out there with the stick? The camps, man. Oh, I gotta run that back.
The signs, and they're all beautiful signs made professionally.
Acts that they have been doing.
We're looking at the funders of a lot of these groups, and when you see the signs, and they're all beautiful signs made professionally. These aren't your protesters that make the sign in their basement late in the evening because they really believe it. These are anarchists and agitators, professional anarchists and agitators.
Professional anarchists and agitators. So their backdrop is the regular protesters that go out, because nobody can deny that these people actually go out, because they do. Okay? But the ones that are actually a thorn in their side are the prophets that preach the truth, man. See? So he's using the actual protesters to bring forth this thing here, okay? Because that can be used against the ministry, man. See, the devil ain't that slick.
And they get hired by wealthy people, some of whom I know, I guess. I probably know them. And you wouldn't know it. You're at dinner with them, everything's nice, and then you find out that they funded millions of dollars to these lunatics. Steve, could you say a couple of words?
Yes, Mr.
He's talking about the
This is a
protest.
very historic and significant day. This is the first time in American history that there is an all-of-government effort to dismantle left-wing terrorism, to dismantle Antifa, to dismantle the organizations that have been carrying out these acts of political violence and terrorism. What we have seen, if you look at whether it be going back to the riots that started with Black Lives Matter and all the way through to the Antifa riots, the attacks on ICE officers, the doxing campaigns, and now the political assassinations, these are not lone, isolated events. This is part of an organized campaign of radical left terrorism. It is structured, it is sophisticated, it is well funded, it is well planned. There is really no parallel like this to anything else in the country right now. There is an entire system of feeder organizations that provide money, resources, weapons, and when they're attacking ICE officers, they're attacking federal buildings, where they're isolating public officials for harassment, doxing, intimidation, and ultimately attempted assassination. It is all carefully planned, executed, and thought through. It is terrorism on our soil. Because of this executive order, Cash and Pam are going to have the tools they need, working with Scott, to take these organizations apart piece by piece. And the central hub of that effort is going to be the Joint Terrorism Task Force, or JTT.
Now, mind you, again, he's talking about the protesters, but he's going to try to say the same thing about the prophets, man. They're anarchists, they're rebellious, they're, terrorists, and whatever else they said, okay? And I'm probably not going to play the rest of this video. I'm not going to let him finish his statement here. If I watch it, I'll finish it on my own time. I'm going to go close.
Yeah, which sits inside the Federal Bureau of Investigation. But for those at home who are worried about terrorism in this country, they need to understand, because of President Trump's strength, because of his vision, because of his leadership, we are now going to use the entire force of the federal government to uproot these organizations root and branch. And again, that's only possible because of President Trump and his leadership.
Thank you, Steve Cash, please. Yes.
So he's talking about cracking down on protesters. Some of these people are actually fighting back. But then he signed an executive order, all right, for death penalty, and they're trying to enforce that in all the states. So you can just see how everything connects, okay, on a higher level than what they're trying to portray it to be, okay? And as always, their main target is the Israelites. And on a sub-level, more important than just the Israelites as a whole, is the prophets, man, the ministry, okay?
As Stephen was saying, Mr. President, thanks to your leadership, crime is going downward in a tremendous fashion, and that's...
Yeah, and I'll probably leave it right there. Yeah, I mean, maybe if there's something else to talk about, if I, watching the rest of this video, I'll come back. Okay, but this is my first time seeing this video, so I mean, hey, whatever. Still got to talk about it, all right? Won't let it fly on the radar. Because there's probably others that have probably been seeing this video before me. But this is my first time hearing about it, so I'm just, giving a few words on it. Just, being circumspect and watching myself, okay? So, yeah, I'll probably just leave it at that. So, Lord willing, you will edify to the next now. Going to say shalom.